Welcome to week 3 of our Happy Scrappy Quilt Along. I'm really excited about today. We're going to make a lot of progress. In week 1, we cut out our fabric and paired up our squares. And week 2, we assembled our blocks, or we sewed our blocks. And so we have a big stack of half square triangles now, and we are going to take them. I'm going to take them down to my kitchen floor, and I'll bring the camera down with me. And I'm going to lay out all the blocks and turn them in a couple of different, or arrange them in a couple of different ways so that we can see a couple different options for a quilt top, a final look on our quilt top. So let's do that. Let's take the blocks downstairs, arrange it, and then I'm going to bring them back up and we're going to sew our rows together. So lots of progress today. I'm excited. Okay, you guys, I've got the quilt, all the blocks all laid out on the floor. Okay, off. Oh! And this version is the main, the version that's on the main cover of the pattern. And so I followed it loosely. Hopefully you can see me. I followed it loosely. I laid it out as close as I could. I didn't make all the blocks the same as the main pattern, and so it's not identical. So I laid it out as close as I could, and then I didn't like that some prints were right next to each other that were too similar, so I did rearrange it a little bit, but I really like this. And this is basically a broken dishes block. So in the broken dishes block, you'll have half square triangles, and then you'll have, see, these aren't all really clear, but you'll have like the two darker prints pointing to each other, and then the two lighter prints pointing to each other. And that creates this almost hourglass look. And so I'll come closer over here. I gotta love this. Okay, so here you can see I've got two darker prints facing each other and then two of the reds. Now, like I said at the very beginning of this sew along, is that you don't have to be exact. Nope, you're gonna stay off. Oh my goodness. I don't know about your dogs, but my dog loves fabric. He loves it. So it's like a magnet. You don't have to be exact in matching lights and darks. It's also, if you can't put lights and like darks and lighter prints together, then just make sure you have contrast as far as your patterns and color, and not necessarily color, but your patterns. So you just do the best you can. And then what I suggest is to stand over your layout and take a picture with your camera. For some reason, that gives your eye a much more objective look at your layout. So look at that picture with your camera and you'll really get a better idea if you like it or not, and where any glaring areas that you need to change are. So now I'm going to change this. There's an alternate, and this is like an around the world type of design. There's an alternate design on the pattern cover, and all you're going to do is start at the center. And because this has uneven rows, our center is going to be a little off. So there's going to be 3 extra rows on that side and 2 on this side, but I'm going to call this my center. And I'm going to point all the blues together to create this diamond in the center. And then the next layer is going to be pinks, and they're not necessarily all pink. Like I said, some of these are multi, but I'm going to count them as pink. And so the next layer, I'm just going to turn. And this is where I have to be so careful, because I do mess up a lot on this. Okay, so we're going to turn these like so. Yes. Okay, so I've created this point, and now I'm going to turn these to create this point. So I'm creating like a larger diamond, and then this, just like that. So now you can already see I've got a larger diamond, and then my next layer is going to be, so this next row, it's the set of triangles that are alternating are going to create the blue layer. So let's just start. Those are already good. And there I see my point. I'm going to turn this. So my green is going to be my blue here because I don't have a blue. And that's good. Let's see. Blue, blue, blue. Turn. I do have two prints like the Starflower prints now facing. So that's a time if you don't want them to be right next to each other, now's the time to change those. And there's my point. Okay. So you can already see that next layer, that next diamond. And the next one is going to be my reds and pinks. So I'm just going to turn these. And there we go. Now, let's see, there we go. Okay, so that part's done. And now I'm just going to, now here I've got a green and a blue. I don't have a red or pink, so I'm going to use the green because that's a little more close to the red or pink. It's a little lighter in tone. And here I can just finish off this corner. Oh, goodness, look what I did. Okay. There we go. All right, I'm going to walk around to this side. And let's finish off this. Let's just turn, there's my red, and then I can turn my red there, and then I'm going to turn my blue in since I'm already here, creating that point. So hold on, what did I do? Let's see. There we go. Okay, so there we have it. This is the around the world version, and I didn't move one single block. I just turned them in a different direction. And so that's another way you can do it. Now, I didn't include this in the pattern pictures, but you could easily create a chevron look by, let's see, there we go. Just play around with your blocks. You could do just about anything. So you can see already I've created this chevron. So you'll do blue, 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 blue. Turn that like that. I'll come over here and you just keep going like so. So let's see, what did I do here? There we go. There we go. You gotta think about it sometimes. So this is just a chevron. It's kind of a subtle chevron in there, and you can do that throughout the whole quilt. And then the final way, which is just really super traditional, is just have all of the diagonals face the same direction. So you just turn them all to face the exact same direction. And it's just a really simple half square triangle quilt, like so. So you would do that with all the rows. So those are, actually I gave you 4 different options, where in the pattern it only shows 3. I think I'm going to do the first one, the broken dishes. I kind of like that kind of classic, really eclectic, a little bit Holly Hobby looking, like just a little patchwork, scrappy looking. So I'm going to go back and rearrange those to go to the broken dishes quilt design. And actually I'll do that right now, and I'll just speed it up for you. right, so I tried really hard to match dark colors with dark colors and light with light, but again, I didn't like how some of them looked together, whether it was two exact prints right by each other or similar prints next to each other. And so sometimes I disregarded that entirely. And you'll see you're even utilizing the seams to create that diamond shape. And so if it's an illusion of the eye, if you can't perfectly get all the contrasting colors, it's okay because you're still getting the diamond shape. With your eye, it's still following that shape. So I'll show you right here. I really couldn't do anything about having three blues together, and it's fine. It still created a nice diamond. So I'm really happy with it. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take my blocks and stack them up carefully in order, just like this. And then I'll number each row with a little piece of paper and pin it on each. So this is row number 1. And I'll do that with all of them so that when I take it upstairs, I can sew them in order. And I will probably lay it out again on my sewing room floor. I don't have a lot of room up there, but just to make sure, I can usually squish them in. They're kind of overlapping. And just to make sure that I still have it arranged right and everything. So I'll do that, but that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to stack up each of these, number them so they stay in order, and then we'll take them upstairs and sew them into rows. All right, so I am starting with row 1, and I've got all the blocks lined up from my sewing machine to my table. I'm very visual, so I need them lined up, and I need a picture to follow. So I also took a picture of my quilt top laid out, and I'm following that so that I get it right. But again, it's hard to mess this up. It's really about the angles of your half square triangles. So I am going to pair these together, and we're just doing a 1/4 inch seam. I'm not chain piecing these because we're sewing a row. You can chain piece rows. I just don't like to. I lose track when I do that of the design of the quilt, and I usually end up making big mistakes. So I just like to do it this way. Now you can press your seams in between as you go along. I like to press the whole row at the end. So again, now I'm just going to, I like to have this laid out and pair it up like this. Visually, I need to see everything kind of laid out, and so I pair things up that way, like as it's laid out, I can see it. I'm going to turn it back and lay it out. And then I've got another block right here. And I turn it around this way so that all the extra blocks are off to the side and not in my way. But then I will turn it around each time as I lay it out. And again, I'm going to turn it around. Now you don't have to, you could just add another block here, but for me, I can't visualize it that way. So I have to turn it and then add it just as I have it laid out in my row. So you just do what works for you. I like to really save the hassle of unpicking a seam, so I just try to be really cautious with it. Okay, and now we're going to add, our final block. So here we go. Okay, so row 1 is complete, and now we're going to press our seams. Now for each row, you're going to press all the seams in one direction. So for this row, I'm going to press all my seams to the left, and then in row 2, I'll press all the seams to the right, and that way these seams will nest nicely, and I'll show you that after I do row 2. So I'm going to go ahead and press this and start on the next row. All right, so I have the second row lined up and ready to go. So let's just start sewing these seams together, and I will speed this part up for you. Okay, so row 2 is complete. I'm going to press all the seams to the right, and then we'll sew the first 2 rows together. Okay, my first 2 rows are pressed and ready to sew together. So you'll remember we pressed all the seams on this one to the left and all the seams on the second row to the right. So now I'm going to pair them up. And so I'm nesting the seams. Let me get this closer so you can see. So you can see this seam is going in a different direction than this one, and so they butt right up against each other really nicely. That helps to reduce bulk. And so it helps sometimes to just pin a few of these in place so that you get everything evenly spaced as you go. All right, so that's the only one I'm going to pin, and then I'll just be really careful as I sew along. This is a really forgiving quilt, so I'm not going to worry too much about it. All right. All right, and always be sure to remove your pins before you get to them so you don't sew over them. The needle can easily hit the pin and cause it to break, and you could lose an eyeball. So better be safe than sorry. Make sure you remove those. And then I'm about a third of the way done, and that's the point where I like to check my next seam and just make sure they're butted up against each other. You could even pin it in place, which I will do. And let's keep going. So right at this point, this little triangle is kind of going in, and so I'm losing that about 1/8 of an inch. For this quilt, I'm not going to worry about that. Like I said, I didn't square up my blocks, and that's why I get that. So that's why we would normally square up a block. This quilt's so forgiving, I'm not going to worry about it. I'm just going to kind of make sure that I have another 1/8 of an inch or so in here. Just make sure that I'm catching enough fabric so it doesn't unravel. You don't want to have that seam unravel later. And while I'm stopped, I'm just going to pin the next seam. And let's just keep on going. Okay, so this block has a lot of extra fabric. So my seams are not, well, they're butting up against each other, but then I've got a big kind of bubble of fabric. So let me show you what I like to do here. Again, if I had squared up my blocks, this wouldn't be happening, but I didn't, and I'm fine with that. So I'm just giving it a gentle tug to kind of even it out, and then I'm going to tug on that just gently, not so hard that I'm pulling on my needle or anything like that. And as I give this a little tug on the bottom, the top will ease through, and I'll lose some of that bubble. So you can see it's a little wavy here. That's that ease that I just, as I was gently pulling, the top was able to feed that the top through faster than the bottom because the bottom was being pulled a little bit. And so it creates an ease. And when I press it, that won't even show. All right. All right, so the first 2 rows are complete, and what I like to do is I like to press this long back seam open. So our side seams are all, our block seams are all pressed to either side, but this long seam along the back, I'll show you here, I like to press the whole thing open like that. It just helps reduce the bulk. I could press one way or the other, and some people like to do that because it does make a stronger seam. But I like to reduce the bulk and just press it open on these long seams. So that's what I'm going to do, and then I'll finish up the rest of the rows. That's a wrap for week 3 of the Happy Scrappy Quilt Along. We arranged all of our blocks into rows, and we sewed the rows together into this gorgeous quilt top. The quilt top's not complete. Next week we are going to add the borders, and I'm going to spill the tea on my possibly controversial method of adding borders. It's my own lazy girl method, and it works for me 100% of the time, and I'm happy to share that method with you. And it might stir up some controversy. I hope not, but it's just my little way of doing borders that works for me, and that's how I'm going to share it with you. So thank you for joining me, and I hope you'll take a moment to like and subscribe to the channel. And most of all, I wish you a very blessed day. Bye-bye.